Nandita, you are the tech.
Sorry?
Nandita, you are the tech person here. Is it always better to record on the cloud or better to record on the computer?
So it depends on the how much memory you have, because beyond a point it will slow your computer. So
Better to
then
go on the
yeah,
cloud.
you can record on computer and then move it to cloud gradually.
Hi, Vasundhara.
Nandita, which year did you graduate?
I graduated, Urvashi, 95.
Ah, we used to be a Nandita in our batch, so I was just wondering.
You mean LSR?
LSR, yeah.
No. I was talking about FMS batch of 95. I undergrad I finished in 93.
93, okay.
Hi, Gayatri. Hi, Anupama.
Hi, Vasundhara.
Very,
Hi,
very excited about today's topic.
Yeah.
You know, this.
Your first Gupshup?
No, I came in, I slipped into one of your other ones.
Thank you.
I'm finally on holiday, guys. So that's why. Otherwise, on a Sunday by 5 o'clock, I'm still like recovering from my week and getting ready for my Monday. But now we're on holiday, so that's good.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. But looking forward to it.
Oh. Okay. Starting in 2 minutes. Okay.
Good to see you back, Gayatri, with the yellow background. That means you're home and you're in Bombay.
You've hit the nail on the head, Vijay. Am I blending in? I've been contemplating whether I'm blending in too much with my surroundings.
No. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Great.
Thank you for
good to be in touch with everybody.
Yeah. For the others, you know, Vijay has been featured in 2 different newspapers today.
Oh, wow.
The write-up in the Hindustan Times, and the other one was in Midday.
That's in Sunday Midday. You
Sunday.
know, it was a very sensitive piece, that one by Jane Borges. I think it's very relevant, you know, talking about how we make friends over on virtual platforms, how well do we know them, and then the outpouring of grief when one Pillai, she was a great presence on Twitter. She died. Another amazing young man who died, his cancer took him away. And so Jane was writing about how people are, you know, interacting with each other, how you become close, and so she wanted to know how I had got in touch with the young daughter who died. And it's a nice, it's a very nice, and I think it's very,
yeah,
yeah,
Vijay's not
look at us, you know, it's a group. I mean, we rarely meet, and some of us we've never met each other, but there's this immense bonding over this platform, you know. So that is nice. Yeah, the other one was on Chat for Cancer. My pet.
Sorry, Vijay, we can't hear you at all because your connection is really patchy.
Okay. We will start. Okay. Yeah.
Gayatri, just one point.
Yeah, Urvashi?
You know your the number, the Zoom ID number, meeting number.
Sorry?
On the picture. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The Zoom ID
Yeah, I
number
got a
of
very
the
bad
picture
connection
is different
and
from
yeah,
the
very
message.
bad
There's a digit
connection.
difference. So many people, if they're looking at the picture to sign in, will not be able to sign in.
Yeah, I think this,
So, like it says 645, but it's actually 654.
Please.
That's it. Just got it. Let's see. Maybe
I
they
hope people, yeah, I hope people notice the difference. That's it. I'm saying.
yeah. Chalo, we'll start. I think probably everyone will just click on the link.
Click on the link. Yeah, I used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I was saying, in case you want to send another message, just saying that. But yeah, most people will click on the link.
It's about time. It's 5:10. Yeah. We'll start. Hello and welcome to another episode of Gupshup with Gayatri Season 2. Old World Conversations with New Age Technology. As many of you know, Gupshup is a series of light and casual conversations on topical issues with domain experts over the Zoom platform. But light does not mean it's frivolous. Casual does not make it flippant. Gupshup is not gossip. Gupshup is not a high voltage toxic debate aimed at getting you agitated and angry. Rather, it's an endeavor to ignite a conversation where one can reflect, one can ponder, one can learn or even unlearn in some circumstances. Does that mean that no uncomfortable questions will be asked? They will, but not in the Bharat puchta hai, India wants to know kind of way. Gupshup is broad in its scope. Previous topics have covered things such as films, food, financial planning, feng shui, beauty, cancer care, to name a few. But the most important aspect of Gupshup, what really sets it apart, is the quality of the audience and the interactive nature of the interviews. The predominantly female audience of Gupshup is well educated, intelligent, and discerning. It always has a lot to say. So please send us your comments, thoughts, and queries on the chat box, and we'll take them both during and after the conversation. So sit back, ladies and gentlemen. Sit back and enjoy the latest episode of Gupshup with Gayatri, Old World Conversations with New Age Technology. Let me now introduce our guest for the evening. Our guest today has a heart of gold. Her energy and enthusiasm is infectious, her activism inspiring, and her work transformative. Anupama Easwaran, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Gupshup with Gayatri.
thank you, Gayatri. Thank you so much.
Let me give your formal introduction now to everyone. Anupama Easwaran is an ICF and Ericsson International Certified Executive Coach specializing in diversity and inclusion, a postgraduate in management from the Indo-German Training Center, Mumbai, a trained counselor from Parivartan, Bangalore, and Heart to Heart Institute, Mumbai. She has nearly 25 years of work experience in diversity and inclusion consulting, employee wellness, business development, client servicing, marketing, brand, and event management. That's not all. Anupama founded In Harmony in 2014 with the aim of helping organizations leverage on diversity and build inclusive workspaces through inciting studies, training, and employee wellness programs. Anupama also offers her expertise as an external member of internal committees constituted by companies based on the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, what we normally call POSH. Anupama is also an advisory member on the board of Tweet, an NGO working towards education, employment, and empowerment of transgender people. Anupama is actively involved in creating awareness about transgender people and bringing them into mainstream employment. During the pandemic, she started a free for all online trans awareness webinars called Trans Is. Some of the webinars reached over 1 lakh people across the globe. Anupama, that's a phenomenal achievement. We're so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Gayatri, and I'm excited to be here. And I can't believe like I'm on your platform doing Gupshup with you.
Anyway, so, Anupama, we are celebrating Pride Month. What does Pride Month mean to you, and how do you celebrate it?
Well, Pride Month, it's unfortunate that we look at 1 month to celebrate anything to do with pride or the LGBT issues, but Pride Month typically is a month-long celebration to recognize the LGBT community, to also recognize some of the challenges that they still face, uh, and celebrating their achievements. So for me, it is a month where we actually we just go all out to create as much awareness as possible, in especially in corporates. And we do see today many companies organizing pride events in the sense of having very meaningful conversations. So from doing simple things like earlier, I think a couple of years back, after the reading down of section 377, we used to see companies having just logo colors with pride colors on it, etc. And today now you see that we've been doing some very meaningful conversations with companies. So for us, Pride has been all about how to increase sensitization, how to bring more stories amongst, and a session like this. So that's what Pride really means. You're on mute, Gayatri.
I said, I'm sure everyone here is aware of the history of Pride Month. Yeah. How through concerts and parades and parties, people gathered to honor the Stonewall Uprising of Manhattan in 1969. And then in 1970, they had the first Pride March, which is an intrinsic part of Pride Month. So do we have similar marches in Mumbai? The ones in New York now reach 100,000, I'm told.
So we do have across actually many states in India, we do have Pride marches. And in fact, the Pride month culminates with Pride March in most of the cities. Mumbai also has one, but since last year, because of pandemic, unfortunately, we haven't been able to do the Pride March. But yes, it does happen. So the community actually gathers through online platforms. They have their own conversations. Sometimes I get invited. They do see that, okay, she's a strong ally. Let's invite her also into these events. And so the momentum is there, even though it's a virtual medium.
You mentioned the word ally, that you are an ally of the LGBTQIA plus community. That's, yeah?
Yeah.
What do you mean by, what does an ally do?
So what is the meaning of ally?
Ally is a friend?
Totally. So, in fact, I had, Googled this recently because we had done another talk on being an ally. And when I Googled the definition of ally, it's an intentional friend, somebody who has an intent to support, intent to stand up for somebody else. So a friend who's honest and committed in every possible way. So that's an ally. The most important thing when I saw the definition was the intent, that I do intend to support, I do intend to stand up against any kind of discrimination for this community. And for me, that's what an ally means, especially for the community. Now, if you have to translate into practical aspects, ally would be somebody who acknowledge them, I mean, the LGBT community just like us. There is nothing which is really different. They may have a different sexual orientation or a different gender identity, but in every other way, we are all similar, right? It's the same kind of blood that runs through us. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's the same. So to recognize, accept the community as they are. The second thing is that especially those who are like transgender people, they may identify themselves different from what they are assigned at birth. So if they have a preferred way to be known, a man who wants to transition to woman and already identifies as a woman and has a name which they prefer to, like a Sonu wants to be called a Sonu, Miss Sonu, then identify her as Sonu rather than, you know, any other masculine name that they were assigned at birth. If they have a preferred pronoun, then, you know, use that preferred pronoun. Um, if somebody is making jokes, and we all know that so many gay jokes are made, even today, unfortunately, there are jokes which are made. So calling them out and not really laughing along with it and say that this is inappropriate. You may sound like, you know, you may stand out in that crowd. People may say that, you know, she's such a sticky female, like, you know, let's not have her in this group, she's not cool. But it's uncool actually to be making fun on, you know, laughing on these kind of issues. So calling that out. So these are some of the things I think which allies can very clearly do.
Not ridiculing the community, being supportive, using the
And
right pronouns
yeah, and come out as, like, you know, really that you are supportive.
with the
What you're
intention.
doing today, Gayatri, is actually a sign of being an ally.
Really?
Absolutely, because you're having a conversation on this topic in the Pride Month. You may not realize it, but at least whoever in your audience is listening, there is something that they take back with them. And the fact that you have decided to have this conversation will inspire somebody else to go and have a conversation like this. So,
Wow.
in many ways, I would see that also as being an ally.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I thought being an ally meant a lot more, but I mean, I'm happy that even if one takes even these little steps, then one can be, you know, one can, I mean, without overtly championing the cause, but one can lend itself, you know, one can support the community because after all, they are a very marginalized, it's a sexual minority.
Absolutely. So you don't have to, like you said, you know, you don't have to be standing, going in a pride march. Not necessary that you're holding that pride flag and walking around, but just by being kind to somebody or giving a listening ear, giving a platform for people to share their stories. I think that itself is a sign of being an ally.
And on the question of allies, so I'd like to ask you that would you call Justice Anand Venkatesh of the Madras High Court, who gave the recent judgment on same-sex relationships, would you also call him an ally?
Absolutely. In fact, what he did is so fabulous. And I really hope that, you know, I get to meet him. I have, I think, a crush on him because of what he did. It just takes a person of a different level to acknowledge somebody, a judge, to acknowledge that I don't understand this space. I want to take a break. I want to get educated. And he got educated, and he says his maximum biggest education came from the petitioners. They are the ones who actually gave him maximum input, and then he of course reached out to counselors and mental health experts, etc., to understand more about the community. So, and he acknowledged about unlearning things. So it's not, you know, none of us are born, we are born in a certain way, there's a certain way that we start thinking, and what he did to unlearn is a very big step that an ally can take. So, you know, it's not that, you know, today I'm an ally because I knew everything. I also educated. All of us, like, we go through
Yeah.
our own
So
education.
he
process.
admitted that he didn't know too much about the issue, and he volunteered to attend some sessions. He
took
also met a
break.
counselor. He met members of the community,
Yes,
and then he came out with his judgment, where he's given many guidelines on, you know, what guidelines to protect couples which are in same-sex relationship. And they think if it's consensual, then there's nothing wrong. But
absolutely.
sorry, yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I think one of the key things which I felt he said was that, you know, as he got to understand the community more, he also realized that there's no difference. Like, he's, you know, one of the things he said is that when you see a male and a female, you also think, okay, it can be I mean, you don't think that their relationship is only about sex. And he got to realize in his conversations that, so what if it's a same-sex relationship? It's not just about sex, it's about a relationship which has got every, like a friendship, romance, everything is as normal as it is across society. So it's the same thing that applies. I think that's a very big one.
And another point he made, Anupama, in the judgment was that until society changes, the absence of a law is not what is really hindering.
Yeah.
The society has to change. That has to come in. So you think, post the repeal of the Section 377 in 2018, in September 2018, so you think post that we've not really made too much progress in terms of acceptance, or you think progress has been made, but
See,
the
there is
miles to go?
progress. There is progress because I know that at least in corporate spaces, there are more companies who are very openly, since then, who have policies in place where organizations recognize that there are same-sex couples. So in terms of medical benefits, etc., let's extend it to same-sex couples. So it's not just like, typically you say the spouse and etc., etc., and dependents, but here they've started recognizing same-sex couples. Organizations have started consciously hiring. So for hiring, obviously you will not advertise saying that, we are looking for LGBT people, but through the networks, the word is spread that this position is specially for LGBT people. So can we look at people who are from this community? So they want to increase representation. There's a lot of sensitization which happens so that anybody, the message they want to convey in organizations is that that we are an inclusive organization. So if you want, uh, you can come out in the organization also. It's not compulsory, but we have, and the environment is such. In society also, it's become a little more easier. At least I think people who were in the closet, some of them have at least got some courage to come out and speak to their parents. You hear more people sharing their stories very openly, and encouraging other people who are still in the closet. Having said that, I think the society still is not as accepting as they should be. In fact, I think very few people even know the full, definition of what LGBTQIA and then plus plus plus. There are many other
So
alphabets.
would you like to tell our audience the full
I,
definition? This is a very intelligent, discerning audience, but
yeah,
since
so
this
I
is
think
a public platform, yeah.
so when we talk about lesbian, gay, bisexual, this is all to do with our sexual orientation in the sense of whom are we sexually attracted to. That comes under the umbrella. The transgender comes from a sexual, our gender identity. So it's basically what happens in from our brain, like, what we may be assigned a gender at birth, but I don't identify with that gender. I identify with the opposite gender or some other gender. So that is what the your gender, transgender refers to that. Intersex refers to the sexual organs, which could be like, sometimes there are people who are born with both genitalia. So intersex refers to that. Queer are people who are still questioning about, the sexuality, or could be the identity part of it. So there are many. And then the whole acronym is just developing more and more, which is why very often you see a plus added, because there is, this whole space is evolving. And there are, like, for people used to say homosexual, today it's considered that homosexual is not a very good term to be using, because and rather say that a gay person or a lesbian person is a better way to address somebody from the community. So things are just evolving, and I think, we have to keep learning and unlearning in this. I have a very good friend, Rajesh, I think, who has joined, and
Yeah.
he's one of my advisors. So he's part of the creative team for us. So he's giving some interesting inputs also in the chat
Yeah,
box.
he's commented that
Yeah.
377 removal has ensured reducing biases
Biases.
society has against the community for sure. So that's a positive development. That was 2018, and now we are in 2021, and we've had another landmark judgment from the Madras High Court. So things are moving in the right direction, as one can say, maybe a bit faster.
Bit faster for sure, because there are many things which are still pending.
You mentioned, Anupama, you mentioned about workspaces, and we'll come to that because you are a diversity and inclusion coach and consultant, and that's where the bulk of your work is. So how do you sensitize people in these corporates to these issues? What tools do you use?
So we do a large part of this work comes from our training in the unconscious biases space, because many times the way, our whole mindset is what stops us from the unlearning process, or even from accepting something which is very different from what we are used to. So a large part of our training comes in the unconscious bias space. We also help organizations to look at, like, what kind of policies do you have in the organization, and what kind of environment is there in the organization. So we do diagnostic studies to understand the existing culture in the organization, and based on that, what different should the organization be doing. We bring in a lot of people from, especially if you're talking about the LGBT community, we bring in people from the LGBT community to come and share their stories, what we call the human library. And through that, form interaction with the employees. And those are actually lovely way to create awareness. And in fact, a great way to also build a whole community of allies, because as people hear, you always warm up to somebody's difficulty. You want to help. It's a typical human tendency to reach out and help somebody else. So when they hear the difficult journey that people have had, or if somebody points out that I didn't have a sensitive environment, I didn't have parents who didn't support me, automatically it triggers something in a listener saying that, hey, let me reach out and help this person. So these are some ways in which we, and then of course we, like Rajesh, who's in the team, and Amit also, who's there, they do a lot of social media posts and things like that, something or the other, to keep the conversation going.
So can you quote an example? I mean, or is that all classified? I mean, some experiment that you did, or some session that you could see some change, very visible kind of change happening in that environment.
So I know that many of the conversations that we've done with transgender people. So transgender people, if you ask any common person, who do you think is a transgender people? Typically, they would think of somebody who's from the Hijra community begging at the street light, traffic light. And that's the image which comes to you. I mean, I can ask anybody here also. I know we are all very well read, but if you just shut your eyes and think about it, typically that's the image which would come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've had some trans people who have come and spoken in organizations, and the way they speak, whether they speak only Hindi or they speak, English also, but how they're so articulate, speak with so much honesty. I think that's just blown away people. Like, audiences have completely, like, been, shocked that, okay, this is a transgender person. Like, in their mind, it was always somebody who was like at the street light doing begging or sex work and things like that. And some of the people who have spoken, they used to do this, and they have actually worked hard, educated themselves, and then started working in
Now,
regular
I'm
job.
calling out
So
as if deserted.
And you've had people.
This story
Had
takes
sessions
place.
where- Sorry, admin, can you mute? There's some disturbance. Okay. So those are the kind. And what kind of so this is the kind of work you do in corporates, and at a societal level, again, what you meant about being an ally. Those are the kind of ways, as society, as ordinary people, also we can.
So a lot of things we can do is like actually consciously interacting. I've had, I mean, since I do a lot of work with in the LGBT spectrum with the transgender community, I've done maximum work. So I've had transgender people come home to my place, and for the last year, of course, we didn't have because of pandemic, but before that, for 3 years, for Karwa Chauth, they've been coming home to put mehendi. They come to my place because they put mehendi for me, my social circle. They come, and it's not that they're not really the top notch mehendi artists, but they do have some skill. And this is one way, in that social environment, people who came, they were exchanging stories, they got to know the community members, they shared a meal together. And from my place, there were 2-3 other people who invited them to their house and called another circle of friends and got mehendi done. And that way they built a relationship. One of them, their daughter, decided to do an awareness, a trans run, in the sense she organized a run, a 5-kilometer run, to raise funds for the transgender community, and also to build an interaction between parents, students, and the transgender community. So these are, simple things. It just creates a ripple effect. One person can start small, and there are many people who get impacted by this.
Okay. So Priya is saying that she's you had a session Priya says, I've experienced this transformational thinking in my team when Anupama brought in a trans person to speak with us for a professional development session.
Yes.
Thank you, Priya. So, what you're saying, Anupama, I think is about visibility. If we make the community more visible, then that's also a way of supporting them. Like you're saying, when you call them home and then it went and someone else called them home. So, taking them from invisibility to visibility is also a way of kind of helping the community. Am I right?
Absolutely, Gayatri.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, it's so unfortunate that they are such an integral part of the society and they remained invisible or we just ignored them.
What are the other issues confronting this community, Anupama? Transgender also and the larger LGBTQ community.
So while the section 377 was read down, and because of that, more people have been able to come out and to the families, or the societies have started opening up to accepting same-sex relationships. But legally, there is no foundation for a same-sex marriage to get legalized, or for a same-sex couple to adopt a child. Same thing goes for transgender community. So what are we saying? I feel it's like basic human rights. It's our constitutional right to get married to someone we like, or to fall in love with someone we like, to have a child. And here we are that, I just feel that reading down of section 377 was like a appetizer. The main course ke liye to it is like I think the government is saying ki uske liye tum dusra janam lo, kind of a thing, because it's just going back and forth, and it's just basic common sense ki live and let live. So long as
love is love.
Yeah, and fall in love and just be happy. Yeah, if so long as they are two consenting adults, why should anybody be saying that this is good or this is not good?
So you're saying for the larger community, it's now the question of whether same-sex marriages will be allowed in India, and whether couples can adopt kids legally.
Just this morning, yeah, in one of our LGBTQ groups, I had put a message saying, Happy Father's Day to everyone. It was not just, specific to somebody who's a male, but it could be anybody who has a fatherly kind of a feeling. And one of the guys actually said, I'm just waiting for the day when I can adopt a child.
My God.
I so wish to adopt a child.
Yeah, I mean, and then you think, were you right in sending that message? Did it? Wow.
No, it was fine because it was for everybody. But the thing is that there are these are the deepest desires which all of us have, right? When we get married, and you fall in love, you want to get married to that person. Then the next is, if you want to have a child, then you want to have a child. यहाँ you fallen in love, ठीक है, you can fall in love. उसके आगे तुम कहीं नहीं जा सकते हो.
Absolutely. And even Vasundhara is also saying, agree with you, Anupama, allowing marriage will actually validate these choices and give a very strong positive message to the larger community. Coming back to the transgender community, Anupama, their issues are somewhat different these days, because since the Transgender Protection of Rights Act 2019 came in, I mean, while the law actually says that it's against discrimination of these transgenders, now they have to go and get themselves certified by the district magistrate that they are trans.
Yeah.
And this is something that they have not, they don't like in this act.
Yeah. So in 2014, the NALSA judgment actually gave recognition to the transgender community as a third gender. And in that, when they gave this recognition, it was said that if you identify yourself as a transgender, then you can identify as a third gender. Now, in the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act, there is this requirement that you need to get yourself certified first from a counselor and then from a district magistrate that you are a transgender person. And that totally nullifies what 2014 NALSA judgment said, where it was a self-declaration. Here it is where somebody else also needs to validate the fact that you are a transgender person.
What is the thinking behind this? That people
I don't know.
take these benefits?
I have no idea what the thinking is behind this. And the unfortunate thing is that when the act was being put into place, I think probably there was not too much consultation with the community members. The government has tried to rectify this because they formed a national council of transgender people after this act came into being in 2000, I think last year sometime, early last year. And having them address some of the issues which the act has not managed to do. So hopefully things will change.
Yeah. I mean, why should absolutely? I mean, I can just see, the kind of harassment a person will face, a trans person, for first to, you to go and get certified by the district magistrate, and
Totally. Then
because society is not open, the ridicule or the humiliation. There's another aspect to this law, and that's about gender-based violence. Apparently, in this act, they're saying if someone is someone rapes a trans person, then the maximum punishment can only be up to 2 years. Whereas for for different individuals, it can go up to from 7 years up to life imprisonment.
right, totally unfair. Again,
Very unfair. I mean,
very.
violence is violence and gender-based violence, but for a trans person, it's only up to 2 years.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that there is such a discriminatory law on this, because I think most of the trans people would have faced sexual abuse at some point in their life, and for their perpetrators to go scot-free or just with 2 years imprisonment is very unfair. There is no logic to it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know where they're getting this. Why they're coming up with these laws, and what is the thinking behind it. Maybe we can get someone from the government one day on Gupshup with Gayatri.
You should actually.
Anupama, you're also an advisory member on the board of Tweet,
Yes.
the Transgender Welfare Equity and Empowerment Trust. Do you want to tell us more about Tweet and your work there?
So Tweet is, like you said, the Transgender Welfare Empowerment Trust, Equity and Empowerment Trust. And this was also set up in 2017. And one of the co-founders, Abhina Aher, I have worked a lot with her in the last 3.5, 4 years since I started associating with the transgender people. And in fact, we are quite good friends now. And so they invited me to, because of the work that I've been doing with the transgender folks, to be an advisor on their board. In fact, just this morning, we had one of our board meetings. And we're setting up a shelter home here in Mumbai for trans people who have run away from home or who don't have a safe space to go. So the shelter home gives a safe space, but also skills trans people to pick up jobs after they they move out. The whole idea is that somebody stays for 6 months and then they move out and pick up a job and they become independent and they manage themselves. So I've been associated. It's a very, very interesting. I'm honored that they consider me ally enough to be a part of their group.
Talking of safe spaces, how has the pandemic affected this community? Because many people from this community have now been forced to go back and live with their parents, and it's not a very pleasant situation. They had run away from these homes.
It's been bad, Gayatri. Like last year, when the nationwide lockdown was announced, it was something which happened overnight. And for a lot of people, especially from the Hijra community, they depend on begging and sex work. And with the lockdown, their sources of income had completely dried out overnight. They didn't have savings. They don't have a habit of building a safety net financially. And so there was no food. Exactly there's so much of conversation around migrant laborers. A similar situation was happening with the transgender community, but again, they are an invisible lot of our society. So that was one area which we needed to address. Lack of medical supplies. Many of them are infected with HIV/AIDS, so their medicines were not reaching to them, which was again a very serious issue. Occupation, of course, is not there. When the government announced that 1,500 rupees, which is hardly enough for anybody living in Mumbai, 1,500 rupees does not take care of anything. And and many of them, since they've run away from home, they live in even if they're living in chawls or any small hutments, they pay double what anybody else would be paying. So where does this 1500 come into the picture? And many of them won't have documents that they can use to claim that money. So there were all these kind of issues which were happening last year. Today, now I'm trying to run a vaccination camp for them. There are many people in the community who are hesitant, they're scared, they think that I mean, there are so many myths and misconceptions about the vaccination. Nothing is being done to address their concerns. After a long time, I think today, for the first time, I read that in K. Raheja Hospital, they're running a vaccination camp for the community today. But for this camp, I don't know what communication has gone out. How many people even know about it? Because till yesterday, I was talking to somebody from BMC and they didn't tell me that there is a camp like this happening. So, and there are 5,000, 6,000 transgender people in Mumbai itself that we know of. So how are we going to vaccinate them? Who's going to look after them? So there are lots of issues.
5,000 to 6,000 transgender people in Mumbai alone.
Which we know of.
Which
so it's not necessary. Like the census, the 2011 census says there are 5 lakh transgender people in India, which the transgender activists like Abhinay and all say is like, it's a very, very conservative number.
Yeah. I've read that the LGBTQ community is about 8% of India's population.
Yes, supposed to be.
8%.
In fact, that number is used to present the business case for companies to, really invest in the LGBT community.
8% of 140 crores is 8% is huge. I'm not doing the math here.
Neither am I.
11 crores, yeah.
I'm
the
not doing.
population of a small country.
Yeah. It's a huge buying power.
It's a huge buying power. So I think maybe market will show the way then. Where society is not showing the way or just taking baby steps, maybe market will show the way.
Yeah.
Moving on to the other aspect of the conversation, what do you think has been the role played by Bollywood in depicting this community? Is it about stereotypes? Have they been fair? I mean, when Amitabh Bachchan goes out and dresses up as a hijra and sings Mere Angane Mein, what kind of a message is it sending to the masses?
So I think earlier movies were definitely very stereotyped. Even like you said, Mere Angane Mein, those days. So I don't think any of us even knew anything about LGBT.
Yeah, I didn't. I have to confess.
Neither did I think. So it was just like somebody who's trying to dress up like a woman, and that's all that one knew. And I spent a lot of time in the south, so wahan to aur bhi zyada, we didn't know many of these things. Even after that, like when Dostana came, and I think couple of even the Kantabai thing.
Yeah.
I think again it is a very stereotyped way of presenting same-sex couples. There was a lot of joke. One way is that yes, it brings focus to the community, but the second thing is it also re-emphasizes stereotypical way of presenting. So like for example, a gay person is effeminate, will dress up a certain way, will speak in a certain, like Bobby Darling for example, is always presented as a never given any other role to normalize somebody from the LGBT community. So that stereotype I think does not help, but I see a lot of hope in the OTT platforms where and some of the new movies like that My Brother Nikhil, even Kapoor and Sons. I think the way the issue has been presented is far more sensitive and probably more realistic also.
Yeah. There is a question from Vijay. Vijay is saying, awareness through art, literature, and cinema. How access to good films in all languages on the OTT platform, how can that help? Can awareness through art and cinema help the cause, and how?
I think for sure cinema, for sure art, literature, there is a lot of material. In fact, literature, there are books for kids which bring out the whole subject of LGBT, and which are recommended and which can be read just like you read any other fairy tales or any other stories, story books to kids. Art also helps because, and there are artists also amongst the community, very good artists. Cinema, I think, in country like India has a huge reach. I think we all, especially Bollywood, I think there's a huge consumption of Bollywood movies. So if we make sensitive movies, sensitive literature, I think the reach is going to be really big, especially with cinema. And OTT is doing a good work of it. I think some of their recent shows have been very, very well done. And there's a lot of English, Hindi, regional language content, which is quite interesting. Just that their reach in the, I don't know how, where, deep is their reach in rural areas as yet.
But then
So,
won't that be better? I mean, the local language, the regional languages, they can reach the community better.
of course it can, but I don't know the reach of OTT in rural
The
areas.
reach of OTT, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So,
so many of these web series have, to my mind, depicted the community so sensitively. I mean, whether it is Chini in Patal Lok, or it is Karan Mehra in Made in Heaven, or it is Umang Singh in Four More Shots Please.
Yeah.
I think Four More Shots Please season 2, where they showed that whole lesbian wedding. I was like, I've not seen anything like that on Indian television before, and it was a grand wedding at Uday Vilas. So I think I think that was a really bold statement for the producers of the show to have made.
so I have not seen, I think Gayatri, you mentioned about it. I'm yet to watch the 4 more shots.
You should.
Yeah.
Because it's about this wedding. I won't give away what happens. But yeah, lots of comments coming in. We should look beyond Bollywood.
Absolutely, we should.
I'm coming for it.
In fact, but the unfortunate thing is that these are the medium which has got mass reach. So if you look at or any of our television serials in the rural, so a lot of people from the community in the rural areas have a very tough time because there the societal changes have still not happened to the extent that you see in urban cities. And your television can play a huge role there, but we don't have any TV series that I know of which carries such a good content.
In fact, in those places, I mean, if Hindu mythology has also had trans characters.
You could have done
This was
I won't be able to open my
Oh, then you take it and put it here on the table. I'll go up.
Sorry, admin.
Gayatri, you have to unmute yourself.
I got muted also. I'm saying when you talk of television and regional languages, and I'm saying Hindu mythology has also had trans people. We've had characters. We've had Shikhandi, Brihanala,
Ardhanarishwari, the whole.
Arjuna. Yeah, so I mean, it's not, and we could. So this Section 377, many people said it's a kind of a Victorian law and not really part of Indian society. But is there work happening around these these characters or these stories to take home, to drive home the point about inclusivity?
So a lot of times in sensitizations, programs we talk about it. What can be done, I feel, in some of the smaller cities, etc. You can do a lot of these nukkad, street plays using these characters. Since mythology is something a lot of people connect with, those kind of programs can definitely be done.
Yeah.
So we have India's first transgender dance group called Dancing Queens. They do a very nice 5 minutes sensitization program, just depicting the life of a trans person from birth to adulthood and what they go through. And that's a very powerful way for people to understand and connect. So we could even use theater as a medium. And I think Priya here, who does so much of theater work, will be able to connect and organize something like that.
There's a question from Aarti Singh. Aarti, would you like to ask the question yourself?
Okay. I'm not allowed to start the video, so I will just ask it verbally. Do you think the younger generation today, especially in the cities, they are more open and they accept it as normal?
Yes.
I mean, isn't it? That's a very good.
Yeah. Absolutely, Aarti. In fact, they think it's not work to be cool about this.
Okay.
Yeah, they definitely, I think a lot of parents will agree that it's the kids who are teaching the parents now about all these issues. And if you say something wrong, then they correct you.
So if I may ask a question, why do you think they are more open and accepting? What is it that has made them the way they are? Why do they think the way they do now?
The access to information is far more than what we did. So internet, uh, they are connected with people in a simple video game. If they're not even video, like a PS3 game or something they're playing, it's not just they play this game with their known people. Some of them are connected with people from all over the world when they're on this. So their social network itself is so big. So they pick up a lot of information, and they realize what's right, what's not right.
Also, because do you think because they watch a lot from the lot of TV or a lot of content from the West where it is more normalized?
That also the content from West, the fact that they connected to a lot more people than we were, the kind of the studies they do, that even the teachers and schools they go to, I think some of the teachers itself are far more knowledgeable about this. Some teachers are also from the community, so I think their whole perspective is much wider, and that's probably why they know more than us.
Great, thank you. I'm so glad the new generation is the way it is.
Yes.
Absolutely. They'll show us the way.
Yeah.
Anjali Karpe has raised her hand.
Yeah. Anjali, would you like to ask a question now? Anjali's raised her hand. Maybe that was by mistake.
She needs to unmute herself. Anjali, please unmute yourself.
Anjali.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just getting in and out of bad signals. But I know that Anupama and I have spoken about this before, but consciously bringing in awareness and, having these conversations at younger ages in schools, etc., just brings in a greater, I mean, already the younger ones do end up, being more accepting. But at the same time, just homophobia is much more in younger kids, right? And those jokes can be just thoughtless. And if one has those conversations, even those jokes, children have to realize that they are just downright disrespectful. So I think I just wanted to know, consciously, getting on to programs in schools, will they actually help strengthen the acceptance and the respect that this community definitely deserves?
Absolutely, Anjali. It will make a huge difference to start from that age. In fact, that's a perfect time, not just for the students, but I think their parents also, as part of the PTA and the teachers. All three, I think, they're part of the same, I would say, triangle. They all need to be educated about this, and it will make a huge difference for sure.
Anjali, that's more responsibility for you and your students. You have to design the curriculum and have those sessions to educate
Absolutely, Gayatri. I think it's imperative that we do that, because to try and start getting adults to be more understanding and more accepting is one has to sow the seeds much earlier. And if we do it, I think we can just bring in bigger changes, in the process, for sure.
Yeah. So many of the people from the LGBT community have shared about being bullied in school. And because of that, their grades have dropped. Some kids have gone into depression. Sometimes substance abuse kicks in. So if we can start the sensitization from school, I think it will make a huge difference. You'll really get the child to blossom to their full potential.
If I may ask you, Anu, I know there are many parents in the audience today. So, just the baby step, but if a child comes and says, Mom, I've decided to come out, I'm gay. What is the appropriate kind of behavior? How should one react? How should one deal with what should one do?
I think just accept. I mean, if the child is in front of you, giving the child a hug is good. You want to talk about it. When did you realize? Just like supposing I came and told you, Gayatri, you would ask me a few questions, right?
Yeah.
When did you get to know? What is the thing? So I think just being there and listening to the child's narrative, what is the child saying? I think that's what the child wants. Not for you to be judgmental. Not. I mean, it's natural for a parent to be to have apprehensions more because you don't know what to do. Also, sometimes, like you know what society is like, so you want to protect your child. It comes naturally to all of us to protect our child. So you will want to do all those things, but most important is to just make your child feel that you are there for them, and that just takes care of a lot of things.
Yeah. And maybe the parent could see a counselor, so to make the parent understand the situation better.
The parent could, yes, if they want, if they have doubts, etc., they can reach out to a counselor. The biggest, like what happened with Justice Anand thing, he learned maximum from the two petitioners. So a parent will also learn maximum from the child, and trust me, the child can really educate you very well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely there. I mean, they all can, but when you choose a counselor also wisely, somebody who understands LGBTQ issues and who's sensitive, because there are a lot of counselors who don't understand the space, and then they talk about things like conversion therapy. They'll say nahi, isko to kuch mental health issue hai. They can mess up with the parent and the child. So choose, even if you're going to a counselor, choose carefully. There are parent support groups which are there, so reach out to them. They will give you the right advice. They'll guide you to the right counselors.
There's a message from Ishika Srivastava who says,
Oh,
as someone from the younger generation today, appreciate the dialogue being created today.
thank your mom, Ishika.
So I'll share actually, my first experience is something like this, Anupama. About 15 years ago, I met an old teacher from my college, and she's like, Gayatri, do you remember my son? He's now become my daughter. And in that moment, I did not know how to react, but I just said, congratulations. What do you call him now? That's all I could think of. I said, what do you call him? So
But it's
he
good.
gave the name, but so,
Yeah.
and I got the feeling that she was also trying to adapt to the new situation.
Yeah.
And
it's not easy, like especially for somebody who is changing their gender identity. They themselves have taken a long time to figure out what's happening with them. They would have felt that discomfort, that non-conformity thing, but to really understand and say that, okay, I am I'm born a male but I identify as a female. It takes them some time. So imagine, like, if it's taken them 14 years, I think for a parent to grasp that will not come so easily. They also need a little bit of time to get used to this.
Okay. Any more questions from the audience? Anyone else would like to ask our expert here today? Anupama Easwaran. Madhumita is saying very enlightening exercise, Gayatri and Anupama.
Thank you, Madhumita.
Yeah.
Hi, I would like to ask a question, if I may.
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Priya, Anupama.
Hi,
So,
Priya.
hi. It's been really wonderful. I mean, I really think our role models are the new generation because they're very accepting and they're very clear in their approach. I don't think they have any confusion whatsoever. There's a parent's attitude that messes up with their, growth and exploration in whichever way. So my question is towards, I mean, with your wisdom. So I have a number of friends of mine. So I'm like touching 50 now. So who are, still closet gays. Okay. And I find that they are in a lot of pain. They're in a lot of pain and, they really don't know how to, go about this entire thing. And what is the way in which we could help them come out, And they're suffering. Imagine somebody suffering for 50 years and not knowing how to kind of tell their own parents and not share with any friends. So in your experience, how do you kind of help such people?
So Priya, you are aware that they are in the closet, that they are gays. Are you aware of it? They have come out to you?
No, not to me directly, but I know through friends. And I know the entire family. And it is like, I know the people are suffering, the person is suffering. And, the only thing is that because of the person is in the US and the parents are in India, they may spend an entire lifetime being this way. So, I mean, I know a very dear friend of mine in Bombay who is one of the, he works for the LGBT. Like, I try to tell him, why don't you approach the other person? And they say, we don't want to invade into their space or something like that. So, I mean, it is like, if you see people suffering like that, and how do you from your experience, how do you help them? Is my question. Is like,
see, if somebody's not come out to you, through another friend.
Correct.
In their presence, I think some things that you can do is like, one, definitely, like, you don't make any inappropriate comments about the community, or make some, or you can even talk about, like, for example, this session you've gone through, or you've seen a movie, and you can have conversations which are like, and not just pick it out because the person is there, and not make the person feel odd that, because I mean, that can create a sense of fear also, that I'm going to be outed now. So, but in your conversation, just be sensitive, because you cannot, unless a person comes out to you saying that, okay, I am gay and I want your help, or just the fact that they are gay, then you can at least start initiating a conversation. But if they have not come out to you and it's a via medium, there is not much you can do other than just.
Now, what kind of support do these people like? I mean, how do we support them? Basically, you want to say that, however you are, we accept you as you are. This is the message.
Yes.
I mean, which I think friends today want to send out to other friends, because we just want to show acceptance and understanding.
Right.
That is, I think, that is the maximum you can give to, your people you love and cherish in life, So, I mean, what kind of signals will they pick up so that, I mean, this is something, if I think if we all know, we can help a lot of people, because I have seen, like, I have lived in hostel for 20 years in my life. So I have seen a lot of people suffering so much. And it is like, you don't know how to help them, right? Because you don't want to, when they want to be with themselves, you don't want to kind of break into their barrier, because, and as one of the people here said, the best thing we could do is, as we do sex education, which even there's, I mean, a lot to kind of, we should also, have education towards this different genders. And as a person who have done so much of work, I want to ask you, where is the roadblock today? Because one of the things that we have suffered for thousands of years is gender equality between man and woman. And now I think it is extending towards the other, the plus. So, I mean, what is the way in which we can kind of completely get rid of this? I think today's generation is extremely tolerant and receptive. So, I mean, where is the roadblock? And how can we help as people who believe that there is, I mean, I think freedom is the only thing I would ever work for, I mean, of any type. Yeah. So why would, and this is something that doesn't impinge on somebody else's freedom. So I can't understand why would anybody even, for me, I can't understand why somebody would not be tolerant towards somebody else's choices. So, I mean.
Yeah, Gayatri.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So I think I would just like to give you an example of Justice Anand and what he did. Like he said, this is a space which I am not familiar with. I need to go and find out more. I need to educate myself and then see what I need to do for them. So I think the biggest thing that the biggest stumbling block is we, with our mindset and the way that we think and the things that we are used to. So we need to unlearn certain parts for sure. That, and self-awareness. So what you're asking is a part of the self-awareness, that okay, there is something, how do I reach out, or there is some kind of a stumbling block. To recognize that part is like step one, and then finding out more information. How do you be supportive? I think like any friend, while they are struggling, etc., but how would you treat any friend of yours who's going through a difficult time? You would just reach out, you may invite them for a coffee, or you will meet, whatever it is. Sometimes you don't have to, I mean, somebody's going through a difficult marriage, unless a person shares that with you, you cannot ask about this, right? But you will still reach out to them and just make them feel that you're there for them. And sometimes that's more than enough. That's all the person needs to know, that yes, I have somebody to take care of me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Anu. We'll take the last question. That's from Nandita. Nandita, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah. So, Anu, is there anything in day-to-day life? I would accept my ignorance on not having done too much research, but so apart from the bottlenecks of law and acceptance, is there anything in day-to-day life, say for instance, going to a restaurant or going for shopping to a store? Are those also challenges? Are there or that's you think, or is there anything else which is a hindrance in day-to-day life for them?
So, Nandita, when you look at the LGBT, I think if you look at the lesbian, gays, bisexual, not so much, but from the the day-to-day that you're talking about. But when it comes to transgender community, I think they definitely face it because they stand out, especially a trans woman. So trans woman is a person who's born man and then identifies as a woman. So if they are in the transitioning process, or even if they have transitions, it's quite for many cases, like they're quite obvious that they are a trans woman. So they do find it a little uncomfortable when they are in a mall to go alone, and because there are a lot of people looking at them. Another big issue they face in public spaces is to do with washrooms. While they may identify as a woman and they want to go into the ladies' washroom, but not, maybe the other cisgendered women may not be comfortable having them. So we don't have malls where there are gender neutral washrooms. Okay, we have, I think, one which is for handicap, but people, but there is no sign which says that this is a gender neutral washroom. So I think some of those things are definitely issues for transgender community.
Okay.
Thanks, Anu.
Thank you, Anu. Okay. Anu, before we leave you, before we let you go, sorry that there's a one comment from Sangeeta. I'll just take it.
Yeah.
Sangeeta, would you like to read that out?
I'm here. Here I am, unmuted. Thank you thank you for this session. We need to have more forums like this and amazing work at Harmony. So I just think that we need to be more open about our own sexuality. And when that happens, we can be open to someone else's understanding. We can't really help anybody to achieve this or that. Let's apply it to our own selves. We know best what we need. At best, we can be that healthy ally. And it begins in small ways if you want to bring about a change. For instance, I think all of us need to be announcing our pronouns. Is it she, is it her, is it they, how we like to be called. That immediately puts somebody from the LGBTQI community at ease. So yeah, and having worked also in the disability sector and with people who are experiencing challenges in the area of mental health, I think there is more to us, to all of us, than a challenge that we may be experiencing at any particular period in time. Yeah, that's what I wanted to express. That it's really a part of a wider mudda. Yeah.
Thanks, Sangeeta. I think I like that part you said about accepting our own sexuality and being comfortable even talking about it.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we'll come to the end of today's session. Thank you, Anupama. Everyone's been writing. It's been an insightful session. I think there's been lots of learning, and as I said, lots to learn, lots to unlearn for all of us. Thank you for the little tips on how we can also be allies in this movement. And let's go out and celebrate what's left of this Pride Month. Yeah.
Thank you, Gayatri, so much for this platform and for giving me an opportunity to share whatever I have learned over the last few years.
Thank you. Can we end in a music?
Thanks, Anu.
Thank you. Thank you. I think all I can say is that I feel my life has blossomed a lot. So I hope, from here, you are also inspired to really explore and meet people and learn more.
Thank you. Thank you, Anu. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back with another episode of Gupshup with Gayatri, Old World Conversations with New Age Technology. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.